Alrighty, so not in all cases you'll have to jump this panel to the up position, but if you're having difficulty getting it up or access to the motor, we're going to show you how you can pop this panel up by jumping it from your circuit breaker in the rear. So first we're going to start by locating the motor. It's got 3 wires on it. We're going to go ahead and unplug this pigtail. It's a black, yellow, red wire on the motor side. Once that's unplugged, we have here a modified 4-flat trailer wiring harness. So we're going to go ahead and jump that in here so we can route that to where we're going to get our power. So down here at the bottom we have a couple circuit breakers. These are always hot, so we're gonna grab our 12 volts there. I have an alligator jumper wire. I'm gonna kind of interface with our trailer wiring here. So we're gonna clip that right to the circuit breaker. Now our ground, I have off that trailer harness here. We're gonna grab that ground and we're gonna loop that right above that circuit breaker. There's another ground located here. So we're just gonna try to grab the back of that and get it wrapped up in there nice and tight. That's just temporary, it doesn't have to be beautiful. So now we have our access points here to jump our wires. And then up here we see we have our red wires connected to the yellow wire, and the yellow wire off the motor is connected to the brown wire on the harness. So those will correspond either up or down when we jump it. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna give power to the yellow wire, I believe.
Flip the switch so it's underneath the harness. Make sure it's underneath.
So we're gonna, just so it doesn't catch, we'll throw this behind here. So now we're gonna give power to that middle yellow wire. And I just have that looped here. In case you didn't have a jumper like this, you can take this brown wire and bump it right to that circuit breaker there. It will accomplish the exact same thing. This wire here will be to retract it. We can also hit that here. Alright, so when you first get your package and you unbox it, this is what you're gonna have inside your box. The switch itself, a 5/32 Allen key, 2 small bolts here. The head on this is gonna be 5/16, and then the nut end is gonna be a 3/8. Those 2 tools are not included in your box. Here is the lever arm. We'll show you kind of how that goes on. When you get this, go ahead and undo these 2 bolts here. They are Allen keys. We'll need those out to assemble it here in a moment. So now we're gonna pan over to the motor and show you how to install it. All right, so here we have our motor. We're gonna go ahead and start by removing these 2 3/8. I'm fortunate enough here, I've got a ratcheting wrench. You may not, so it might take you a little longer. It is not necessary to use a socket in this area. So we're gonna go ahead and remove these 2 nuts. If you drop it like me, that's okay. You can pick it up later. And then from here, we're gonna have 3 harness connectors, 2 black and 1 red. These are hard to confuse because one has a male end, the other has a female end. So we're gonna get that unplugged and we'll move on to installing our new switch. So first, we're gonna grab our hardware, the 2 bolts and the 2 nuts without the lock washer on them, and they're gonna be assembled into that bracket on the motor as follows. Excuse me. In this direction here, slide that in, and then there's a recess on the other side here that nut is going to slide into. It is probably not necessary to put a wrench on that end. It's not going to fit. You may have to put a flathead in there if you're having a hard time tightening it, but we are going to tighten it from this side here. So let's get the other one in there. And then we'll tighten that down real quickly here. That is the 5/16 end. This one I do not have a ratchet. All right, so now we have both our pieces of hardware installed, and we're gonna move on to now installing our switch bracket. Now, the orientation of this is gonna be as follows. Just like this, it has the ability to move forward and backward as you need to adjust it. Then we're gonna put those lock washers right on those studs we created. You don't have to tighten these down all the way right now. We'll wait till everything is assembled and get it adjusted before we do our final tightening. Next, we're gonna take our lever arm here. The reason we removed those two pieces of hardware is so that we can manage to kind of just work its way around that arm. Now this, we're gonna leave it loose until the very end as well. Make sure that we're clipped on there. The position left to right of this arm is very important. We do not want it all the way over, as it's not going to allow it to move freely. We're gonna come about 1/16 of an inch away from the edge of the bracket there. So not much, but just a bit. Now we'll insert our hardware and get those tightened down. Here we'll grab our supplied 5/16 Allen key. And these may be a little snug going in. That's okay. Once we get it about 85% of the way tight, we can go ahead. All right, so now we have our top bolt tightened here and our arm in the 90-degree position. We're going to adjust the switch here. So to get this top one adjusted where you need to, go ahead and just gently squeeze it until it clicks and sits about as flush as it can get. And we'll go ahead and tighten the 1/3/8 bolt up top here. To get this lower one adjusted, to start, we're just gonna kind of give it a little bit of room here, keep it parallel to the edge, and then we're going to retract the upper panel back down to make our final adjustment. So now we're going to follow our harness back over and jump her down. So now that we have this upper arm Allen head tightened, we're going to move on to positioning our switch. So for this top switch, we're just going to gently squeeze it until the switch clicks, and we're going to very gently tighten. We don't have to snug this up super hard, but just very gently tighten that upper switch. Now we're going to retract this upper panel and adjust the lower switch. Make sure before you retract this panel, the bottom switch is loose and you have the ability to kind of move it a little past parallel on the bracket. So here we're going to go ahead and just jump our wire again, retract the panel. And move on to adjusting our lower switch. Here we can already see it's contacting. We may not have to adjust it much at all, but we're going to just gently push on it. You see we have maybe 1/16 of an inch there, and we're going to snug this one up. Again, not super tight, just snug. So once that is tightened, we can open our panel again to the up position, and we'll double check the other switch. It appears that one is engaged, but it looks like we can loosen it just a hair. And that's all she's got, Captain. If necessary, you do have the ability to adjust the switch itself in the position of the bracket. And you do that just by loosening this outer nut. You can slightly push the switch in, and there's a locking nut on the back side there. Now we're going to go ahead and hook up everything here for our harnesses. you're going to have one with the red tape corresponds to the red plug. Now you have, these are the two that can't be confused. You're going to have, one is male and one is female, so those aren't going to go together, right? Male to female and female to male. This open one here is for our motor. We're going to hook that up here in a moment and check our operation. Alrighty, I believe we're ready. Here we go. Gonna test her out.